It's interesting how many times when you read a gospel passage, new things will jump out at you. For me, I always had this image of Jesus going to confront the Pharisees and the scribes, kind of having this confrontation with them, this dialogue with them. And yet, that's not really the case. I don't know if you all picked up on it, but this time when I read this gospel, right in the beginning it says, Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples. He wasn't talking to the Pharisees. Why not? Why wasn't he warning them so that they would convert? Maybe he couldn't. Maybe their hearts were too hard. Maybe Jesus knew their pride, and maybe he wanted to warn his followers not to fall into the same trap. But what is the sickness of the Pharisees? What is the hypocrisy of the Pharisees? Well, for them it was putting more emphasis on the externals, what people see, and not having that coherence between the image that other people see and the true reality that lies in our hearts. When there's not a connection, then there is hypocrisy. And truly, I don't think there's anything that Jesus is as hard on as hypocrisy, because he knows that we can live in a blindness and be comfortable with it. As long as we have that image that everyone is kind of happy what we're doing and people like us and we put on a good show, that's what it's all about for the hypocrite. God free us from that, because it is truly a sickness and a tragedy, because it's so hard to break through that barrier once it's set up. Once we live in that mindset, it's so hard to break that. Brothers and sisters, this is a call to authenticity. Authenticity is when we care more about our hearts than what people perceive. Because it doesn't matter what they perceive. What matters is what God perceives. Now, I'm not better or any worse because people think that I am better or worse than others. It makes no difference. Blindness, that is what we have to avoid. I had a young lady come up to me the other day, and she was probably 18 or 19, maybe 20, and she said that for her whole life her parents had brought her to Mass and tried to make that important for her as well, for their children. But she said to me, she told me that she told her parents that she would no longer be participating in the church at all, because she said, I told them that I never saw anything in them that made me want to be like them. In fact, they were people who came to church and yet in the house were completely opposite, had no spirit of charity, no love. And so I share that example because many people can live as, angels out in the world, and then in their house, they're devils. There's no charity, there's no love. It's all about that coherence, that where the image that I project outside is the same reality I live in my heart. If we live what we're called to live, our faith will be attracted. People will be attracted to us and what we have in our hearts and that joy, and they'll say, I want what he has. I want what she has. That be what we live, and that be what people see in us. Amen.